Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about Mario Barrios versus Manny Pacquiao, July 19th at the MGM Grand, Las Vegas. Big weekend of boxing, We have we have the heavyweight championship of the world. We have Bam Rodriguez fighting Diego Pacheco. We're going to do this preview first, and then throughout the week you're going to see the previews for Usyk versus Dubois, and as I said, Bam Rodriguez. So make sure you're locking, subscribe to the channel if you are new, put notifications on, make sure you watch all the videos. We're going to be talking all things boxing for this weekend. Let's start with Mario Barrios. Now Mario Barrios, he's the holding WBC welterweight champion, 30 years old, 29 wins, 18 knockouts, 2 losses, 1 coming by way of knockout and 1 draw. The last time we saw Barrios, it was on the undercard of Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson in November of 2024. He faced Abel Ramos. They ended in a draw. They both got down in the fight, Ramos early and Barrios midway through. I think draw was the fair result. I didn't think either really separated and made a statement to say, this is why I deserve to win. Everything was basically on par. Like I said, the knockdowns even. No one even had 2 knockdowns or 1 knockdown to nil to say, this is why I deserve to win the fight. It wasn't great by Mario Barrios. He got found out against someone who I don't really rate that highly in Abel Ramos. It wasn't a great fight at all by Mario Barrios. Now, Mario Barrios, he actually won the interim world championship against Yordenis Ugas in September of 2023. Now, the thing about that is Yordenis Ugas was actually the last opponent Pacquiao fought professionally back in 2021, and Pac-Man lost that fight. Abel Ramos is actually on this card as well. He's a prelim fighter, doing 8 rounds, showing that he really shouldn't have been in the ring with Mario Barrios in the first place, and the fact that he was 1 round or so away from a victory over Mario Barrios, I think speaks to the level of performance we saw from him on that night. But to be honest with you, Mario Barrios, this is going to be one of the few times that the world champion isn't really the talking point of the fight, because he's not. This has become the Manny Pacquiao show, because everybody just wants to see, can Pacquiao win a world title at 46 years old? Now, I'm of the firm belief that he shouldn't have been given this opportunity. He shouldn't have been put number 5 by WBC, and he shouldn't be in this title fight, but here we are. This is how the governing bodies seem to be working nowadays. We saw this only a few weeks ago when Jake Paul got elevated into the top 15 at cruiserweight. I think it's all about the money, if I'm being honest, which it shouldn't be about. These governing bodies should be dictating what is happening on a fair playing field, not trying to get the big draws and the big numbers, but we won't talk about that anymore. Let's talk about Manny Pacquiao now. At 46 years old, Manny Pacquiao, he made his debut in 1995. He's had 62 professional wins, 39 coming by way of knockout, 8 losses, 3 coming by way of knockout, and 2 draws. I mean, he's forever a legend. 8 division world champion. I mean, that fight with Floyd Mayweather, biggest fight ever. In terms of pay-per-view and numbers, I'm not going to try and compare that to some of the Muhammad Ali fights, but it was big. It was massive. And his last professional bout, as I said earlier, was against Yordenis Ugas in August of 2021. He lost a unanimous decision. Didn't look great. But technically, the last time we did see Manny Pacquiao was in an exhibition match in 2024, July. He had a 3-round exhibition match against Rikia Unpo, and that ended in a draw. It wasn't actually scored, I believe. It was just some exhibition match. And the guy that he was fighting, this Ampo guy, if I'm remembering correctly, he was a few divisions, weight divisions up from Pacquiao. Like, he looked massive. He was well taller than him. His back was massive. Like, he must have been a middleweight, a super middleweight, or something like that, because he was huge. And I mean, the fight went just as much as you'd expect a 3-round 45-year-old to go. Like, it wasn't much. I think the last thing that you can rate Pac-Man on is that fight against Ugas. I mean, the last fight that I would consider we saw a good Pac-Man was that split decision victory over Keith Thurman. That was in July 2019. That was 6 years ago. This is my fear for Manny Pacquiao. It's not just the age, it's the inactivity, it's the coming up against a Mario Barrios who's at 30 years of age. I just don't see it happening. I just don't see Manny Pacquiao winning. Look, if you're talking about boxing IQ and you're talking about skill, Pac-Man is miles ahead of Mario Barrios. It's not even in the same fucking conversation. Like, Pacquiao is so much better than Mario Barrios. But age is the great equalizer. The fact is he is 46 years old and hasn't been active for 4 years. So for that reason alone, you would say Mario Barrios should win this fight. A world champion should be beating Manny Pacquiao right now. So how it gets done, I would expect Barrios to stop Pac-Man. Honestly, I would expect... Can Pac-Man go all 12 rounds? Yeah, I think he can. Mainly because I don't think Mario Barrios is a great fighter. As in, we're not going to talk about him in 5 or 6 years. The fact that it's even a discussion that whether he can beat a 46-year-old Pac-Man probably tells you the level, or my opinion, on Mario Barrios. I would love for him to prove me wrong and get Pac-Man out of there very early. Not because I dislike Pac-Man, but because Mario Barrios is the world champion, and I want to see him impress and really push through this welterweight division. But from what I've seen, it'll probably be a late stoppage or a decision victory. What Pac-Man can do to win this is, I think Pac-Man needs to win the fight early. He's got the power, he's got the skill to pick him apart and get an early stoppage. I think the longer this goes on, we're going to see that age really play a factor. To be honest, we probably saw the age play a factor in that fight, in that exhibition fight. I mean, if you want to take anything from that, he looked lethargic. But I would expect he's preparing a lot better for this than he did for that. All right, let's talk about probably the fight I'm most looking forward to this weekend. Mainly because I'm a big Tszyu fan. Obviously, I'm very. It's probably that one and the Usyk versus Dubois one, because that is the biggest fight of the weekend. But I am a big Tszyu fan, as you all know. I've basically grown up watching his fights, being in Australia. So we're going to talk about this. Now, there is probably going to be bias towards Tszyu, so definitely take that into account as I talk you through the fight. But this fight's going to be a rematch. Obviously, the first time they fought last year, that was for the WBO and WBC Super Welterweight belts. This time around, it's only for the WBC. Now, Sebastian Fundora, I'm really not sure about this guy. I don't particularly rate him as a great fighter, a great champion. For me, I feel like every time I see him, he's taking the easier route. Now, it's going to sound really disrespectful to Tszyu, and I'm going to explain what I mean by the easier route, because the fact is he was put mandatories on, so he picked the easier of two opponents, and prior to this, everything that he's done seems as though he takes the easier opportunity, and we're going to discuss that. Now, the last few results we've seen Sebastian Fundora throw up, they include a round 4 TKO win against Chordell Booker in March 2025, a split decision win against Tszyu in March 2024, a KO loss to Brian Mendoza in 2023, and we saw him beat Carlos Ocampo and Erickson Lubin in 2022. Now, Sebastian Fundora, he gets the title shot against Tim Tszyu on 11 days' notice after Keith Thurman withdrew with a ruptured bicep. He ends up beating Tim Tszyu, but not very conventionally. Now, you'll all have watched this fight and remember it for the absolute bloodbath it was. Tim Tszyu, he suffers a massive cut, basically on the hairline of his forehead. That bleeds profusely, like it's a massive cut. It bleeds profusely all over his face, and for probably 8 rounds, 9 rounds of that fight, Tim Tszyu spent most of the time wiping his eyes trying to see. And this is where my uncertainty comes with Sebastian Fundora. The fact is, Sebastian Fundora was fighting a Tim Tszyu who is tiny compared to him. Like, Sebastian Fundora is 6'6" and Tim Tszyu is 5'10". That is ridiculous height and reach advantage. So not only are you versing Tim Tszyu on 11 days notice, Tszyu has not trained at all for a guy with your reach. He doesn't know how to approach fighting someone with your reach. He can barely reach you at the start. Tim Tszyu becomes blind basically halfway through the fight, and the fight still goes to a split decision. How are you not getting Tim Tszyu out of there? The guy can't see and can't reach you, and he pulls through a split decision. Some would have called it controversial. Some thought Tim Tszyu won, some thought Sebastian Fundora won. That is not good at all. And then we look even further back. He fights Brian Mendoza in 2023 before the Tim Tszyu fight and gets chopped down by Mendoza, losing by KO. Like, it was brutal what Mendoza did to him. Cut him in half. Brian Mendoza, someone that Tim Tszyu beat, a few months earlier. So we see all that, and then after that, after Tim Tszyu loses, Fundora has the belts. He spends a year chasing Errol Spence, someone who's not fighting. Let's be honest, he's not going to fight. That doesn't happen. They reschedule it 4 or 5 times. It's not going to happen. Everybody knew it wasn't going to happen. He then takes the fight after Errol Spence with Chordal Booker in March of this year. Someone that I don't rate. I mean, he's had one serious opponent, in my opinion, and that was Amo Williams, and Amo stopped him in the first round. Right? Beats Chordal Booker like everyone knew he was going to. He vacates the WBO belt because the WBO mandated a Xander Zayas fight. There's a fight that everybody really wanted to see, excluding Tim Tszyu fans and Australian boxing fans. Knows that that is the harder fight. Says, nah, I'm going to go and rematch Tim Tszyu, and then tries to explain it, saying that's the harder fight. I don't know how someone that you've spent 12 rounds in, and this is what I mean by Tim Tszyu's the easier fight, because I think Tim Tszyu's going to win this fight. But it's an easier fight because you've spent 12 rounds with him. You know how he's going to fight. He's not an unknown quantity. Xander Zayas is like taking on any new opponent. Tim Tszyu is someone that you've been in there and you've beaten. You've got that confidence. You know you can do it. You know what Tim Tszyu is going to offer. Why not? So, let's talk about Tim Tszyu, the person that I think is going to win it. Now, Tim Tszyu, he had a very tough 2024, no doubt about it. Lost to Sebastian Fundora in a way that he really wouldn't have liked to have lost. Losing your belts because you can't see for half a fight, it's rough. It is rough. He then takes a fight with Barkram Murtadzaliev for the IBF Super Welterweight title. He fought the wrong fight that night. Honestly, everyone knew it after watching it. Not a lot of people rated Barkram Murtadzaliev, me included. To be honest, that's the last time we saw Barkram Murtadzaliev. I don't know what he's doing or where he went, but anyway, he takes that fight, he tries to go into a firefight with possibly the biggest puncher in the division, this big, brooding Russian guy. You know, we're talking about probably a smaller, more reminiscent of a Beterbiev fighter, and tries to firefight him. Gets dropped 3 times in the second, once in the third, and gets TKO'd in the end in the third. I think Tzew's corner ended up throwing in the towel. That's what stopped the fight. it was an awful night in Florida for Tim Tszyu. Um, and it was back to the drawing board because it was Tim Tszyu now basically completely out of the title picture because of the way in which he lost that fight. But back to Australia, back to the drawing board. It starts 2025, very reminiscent of the old Tim Tszyu. He dispatched of Joey Spencer in round 4 in April. He looked great that night. He looked great. He destroyed him. I liked the way he approached it. He took the first 2 rounds lightly, just sort of felt it out, tried to stay calm, composed, and when he saw his opportunity, he took it. Now, if we look back before the Fundora fight, reminisce a little bit, he beat, in October 2023, Brian Mendoza by unanimous decision, someone that stopped Fundora a few months later. He beat Carlos Ocampo in June 2023 with a round 1 KO, someone that Fundora fought in 2022. And then he beat Tony Harrison with a round 9 stoppage to initially gain that WBO interim super welterweight belt. Tim Tszyu now 30 years old. I think this is the time he needs to really reassert himself in the championship column. We know he's chasing greatness. Obviously, for most of his career, he has been looked at as Kostya's son, and everybody knows, especially Australian fans, know how much he wants to not separate himself from Kostya Tszyu, his dad, but separate himself from Kostya Tszyu, the fighter, because Tim Tszyu is his own fighter. He's a different fighter, and the only way he separates from that is making a legacy of himself, and to do that, he needs to get back in the win column. I think there's a weird stat going around that Kostya Tszyu and Tim Tszyu have fought 4 or 5 times in Las Vegas and they've never won. Or it might even be in America. They might have fought 4 or 5 times in America and never won either of them. So this is the first step. Get back a belt, make a splash in America, and keep moving forward. I think Tim Tszyu can beat him. Now I'm going to run you through why. I think Tim Tszyu wins this fight because he's going to have a training camp for this one. Early before the cut in the first one, he was finding lots of success. And thirdly, the fact is he couldn't see for half the first fight, and he almost won it. I think on that basis alone, Tim Tszyu wins this fight. I don't have big hype around Sebastian Fundora. I think Gabriela Fundora is world class. I don't think Sebastian Fundora is as good. I think the game plan for Sebastian Fundora is very simple though. I think you use that jab and you push the prick back all night. That's it. That is the only thing that Sebastian Fundora has to do to win this fight. And he can do that in basically all the fights in this division because he is so much bigger than everyone. Tim Tszyu, he's got to knock that stomach out. He's got to look at what Brian Mendoza did and he's just got to chop that tree. You stop him moving and you nail that body, he's going to go down. He's going to fold. So that is my prediction. I think Tim Tszyu is going to win this by stoppage. Let's quickly wrap up the rest of the card. We have Isaac Pitbull Cruz taking on Angel Fierro 2 as 12-round super lightweight belt. The first bout, it was a brutal fight. I mean, Pitbull hit Fierro with some massive, massive shots. Like, shots that most people would go down to. Shots that we saw him land on the first Tim Tszyu card against Rolly Romero, in which he stopped Rolly Romero in the 9th. I don't know how Fierro ate those punches. He either has a granite chin or he got very lucky on the night. It was a very narrow unanimous decision. Isaac Pitbull getting his hand lifted. And to be honest with you, I think this fight, Pitbull Cruz needs to just finish the job. I think he's got to finish the job. I don't see Fierro eating the punches he ate in the first one again. They're massive. And the fact is he got hit often. Angel Fierro did do some good work. He to fight and brawl with Isaac Pitbull Cruz the way he did is very impressive. Fierro, he's still in 26. Most of his career, he's only fought sort of domestic North and South American opponents, primarily South American. He has suffered 3 defeats and 2 draws in his 23 wins, which when you think that he's only fought sort of domestically isn't amazing. And the fact that I think people forget what Pitbull Cruz did to Rolly Romero. We're talking about now Rolly Romero, a champion, someone who just beat up Ryan Garcia. So I would say Pitbull Cruz by stoppage. I just don't see Fierro eating those punches again. All right, to round out, we have Brendan Figueiredo versus Yoet Gonzalez, 12-round featherweight bout. These two men have both they've both challenged, they've both fought for titles in their career. Figueiredo, his last fight was in February 2025, where he lost a unanimous decision to Stephen Fulton for the WBC featherweight title. This was actually a few years after he lost his first ever world title to Stephen Fulton back in 2021, the WBC super bantamweight bout. So yeah, Stephen Fulton sort of had it over him now in a few divisions. That fight came after Figueiredo won his first world title back in 2021, and since then he has contested a few, but he hasn't been able to reach championship level. Yoet Gonzalez, he's had 3 separate attempts in world titles in the featherweight division, but has come up short every single time. His latest attempt was against Luis Alberto Lopez in September 2023. Look, these are two fighters that are desperate to get their hands on championship belts. Honestly, I have no idea how this fight goes. I don't really remember any of their fights, if I'm being honest, so I'm not even going to give a prediction. But that is sort of the outline of that fight. You're more than welcome to go and look through the footage. I'll give my opinion on how the fight goes after the fight, but as far as analysing this one, yeah, that is basically my opinion on it. If I was to do a box rec guess, and that is literally going on box rec and seeing what they've done and guessing who's going to win this fight, I would probably guess Yoet Gonzalez. But to be honest, there'll be people here that have watched both of these fighters. If you have, let us know in the comments what you think is going to happen in this fight and how you think it's going to go. All right, we're going to end this video with a little bit of breaking news that came out this morning from Mike Coppinger and the Ring Magazine. Abraham Nova, he will be stepping in to face Raymond Ford on August 16th in Riyadh. This after Anthony Kakache withdrew due to a back injury. This fight is on that Moses Atauma, Dillian White, Nick Ball versus Sam Goodman card. Alright guys, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Am I too harsh on Sebastian Fundora? Do you think that maybe I've got it in reverse? What do you think of Manny Pacquiao? Is he going to make his comeback? Leave all your thoughts in the comments below. Like, subscribe, turn the notification bell on. We're going to be making some more previews and analysis talking about the fights this weekend. I got a video coming out about Bam Rodriguez, and I've got a big video coming out against Usyk versus Dubois. You want to watch that Usyk versus Dubois video. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to give my prediction. I'm going to tell you why I think who is going to win. And yeah, I'm out of here, guys. See yous.